Part 26. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 251. When you didn't answer and got into the car directly. Let's go to the shop. Labo looked at her and asked, are you feeling uncomfortable? It should be very comfortable, but it's a bit stuffy. When they arrived at the shop, Master Ching talked to her about business on the second floor, and then mentioned Aunt Ziyun. To tell you the truth, this aunt is a bit like an old friend of mine. I mentioned to you before that our family was in great difficulty. As far as I know, only my nephew and I are left. But there are 5 people above me. Sisters, the ones who are not married are all gone. The ones who are married have been involved a lot. I am thinking, what if there is a future? So, I want to ask you to find out at your convenience. Take a look at this aunt, look. That's easy to say. The first time I saw her, I was also fascinated by her charm. At that time, I also thought, I don't know where, she looks like you. I will make arrangements when I get back. This matter is not that urgent. She is a relative of your mother-in-law and a concubine of your father-in-law. MRSG may also have a grudge. It would not be good if she knew that you were prying. Don't cause discomfort to others. Don't worry, I'm measured. I believe it, Master Ching smiled. Ayu, Yanzu came. Ayu, do you know? That day, we sent Master Ching back. She started talking about going to the pastry shop. There must be 10 kinds of snacks that we learned from us. I packed several kinds back. Yanzu shook his head and said in disdain, the ones they make are not delicious. But they sell them cheaper than us. But it was annoying. Then, guess who you saw in the store? Although she asked, she did not intend to let Wen Yu answer, and continued, the cook who came to our store to look for work when you came last time. She turned out to be from that store. She has been working for many years, and she is still in charge. Come on. Think about it, why do you want to work as a cook in our store? Yanzu is mysterious and excited. When you cooperated, she wants to steal her art. That's right, Ayu, you are so smart, besides, there is another one you don't know. Besides. Yes, guess who owns that store? Don't know, say it quickly. MRSUN, it's the same Wen Xiongui who caused everyone's dissatisfaction when we visited Kui's house last time and grabbed a lot of snacks. I remember, is it her? Yanzu nodded desperately, with a ghostly smile on her face, she is still the daughter of Master Wen. Is she a stepdaughter? No. An adopted daughter? No. She is a dragster's daughter. After she finished speaking, she burst out laughing. When you also smiled, looking at her behavior, she really doesn't deserve a father like Mr. Wen. Yes. But Yu said that Master Wen might know about this. But I don't think so. No. Mr. Wen probably won't even admit that he has this daughter. Haha, when he comes, I'll ask him if he has a daughter and see what he says. Yanzhu's eyes rolled around. When you also laughed, and the haze in his heart just now disappeared. Don't say anything, Ayu. You only spent half a day to find out everything. I think he's even better than Mubo. If you have something to do next time, you can let him do it. When you wandered around for a while and then went home. And Mubo took Zhang Yuan into the store. When you sent a message asking him to check on Qiyu, and he found that Qiyu was always accompanied by 2 skilled guards. Moreover, I often go to some strange places, which is really inconvenient to follow. So, he looked at Zhang Yuan in front of him and laughed in his heart. It's just that Mubo's follow-up investigation business is a bit poor in formulas, and I don't even know what to say. So we decided to have a meal together first to get close. Most of Mubo's money is deposited with Mu Ling. But he also has a lot in his hands, he thinks it's a lot. Because he couldn't spend it at all on weekdays. In fact, he was afraid of poverty and was reluctant to part with it. If you are doing errands outside and can come back hungry to eat, you will never spend money outside. Even if Chi Wu would give him some money to eat and buy shoes, he wouldn't spend it. He told Zhang Yuan, "The big pot rice here is not delicious. Please go out and have a restaurant." Zhang Yuan is very happy. So the two of them ate meatloaf and noodles several times in the streets and alleys of Beijing. That's where Mubo's spending power ends. Sometimes Zhang Yuan would compete with him to pay the bill. After struggling for a long time, he didn't owe him any favors, and he still didn't know how to open his mouth to ask. Finally made up his mind, treat him to a good meal. But he couldn't afford it himself, so he went in and asked Wenyu if he could go to the store for a meal. He had to do something. Wenyu agreed casually. Today, he brought Zhang Yuan with him. Zhang Yuan was also a little nervous when he ate at a restaurant like this for the first time. "Mubo, why don't we pay for it ourselves? Isn't it too expensive here? Let's eat the leg of lamb." "Let me tell you quietly, this is our fifth grandma's restaurant, my sister." "Brother," before he could finish speaking, Mu Ling came. It turned out to be a little Chewo girl with yellow hair who was malnourished. Now she is a big girl with clear eyes and rosy skin. Although the clothes are plain in color, the material is unusual at first glance. Moreover, she has pretty features and a slim figure. Zhang Yuan's face turned red and he quickly stood up. "Mubo, brother, this is my sister Mu Ling." "Sister, your name is Brother Zhang." "Brother Zhang," Mu Ling was very generous. Zhang Yuan was silent. "Brother and you, Brother Zhang, are here to have a meal, watch and serve some good dishes." "Okay, but no drinking. If you don't want to drink, don't drink, we might have something to do soon." Mu Ling went to Zhang Luo, and Zhang Yuan sat down and said enviously, "Where else can you eat in a restaurant?" "How can I do it? I did something and grandma agreed only because she was happy. On weekdays, I can only stop by and eat a bowl of noodles, steamed buns, or something like that. I can't just sit here and eat." Mubo talks a little too much. "Those buns are so delicious, it's good for brothers and sisters like you to work with Master Wu and Grandma Wu. Be practical. We are the only two brothers and sisters in the family. Fortunately, we met Mr. Wu and his wife, otherwise, my sister and I wouldn't know anything, and we might be hungry." Zhang Yuan didn't know what Mubo did, "but I think you are quite capable. And the fifth master trusts you very much. Are you his bodyguard?" "It doesn't count. The fifth master has his own bodyguard, given by the Kui family. I have been following him for just over a year. I just do some chores, sometimes for the fifth master, sometimes for the fifth grandma." "Oh. Zhang Yuan, I think you are quite leisurely." Zhang Yuan sighed, "You know my father, right? He is the accountant in the mansion, and my mother is no longer here. When I came back this time, I said that I wanted to stay in the capital and not follow the third master, but my father scolded me. It would be nice to stay and take care of your father." "Why doesn't he agree?" "My grandfather was the bodyguard of the Marquis. One year, the Marquis was injured, and my grandfather died. My father was treated very well by the family, and he accepted his death. I felt that I was sick and could not be a bodyguard by my side. It was a pity. And he also thinks that he should do whatever the Marquis asks him to do happily, but he doesn't know that the third master." Zhang Yuan had a sad look on his face, sighed and said nothing. Mubo opened his mouth, not knowing what to ask. Mu Ling brought a pot of tea. Brother Zhang, let's drink tea first." "Thank you, sister." Zhang Yuan's face turned red again. The little boy brought some side dishes, and the color and smell made the two of them move their index fingers. "Mubo, why are you here?" a pleasant voice came out. It turned out that Yanzu had arrived, followed by Guyu. Mubo quickly stood up and said, "Miss Zuzu, I'll bring a brother over for dinner. The person who brought us here to eat must be a good brother. Yanzu was overjoyed. She knew the prices of food in the store. Mubo and Muling also giggled. Zhang Yuan didn't even dare to look at her. Why is this Zuzu girl so beautiful? Yanzu said, I made bean curd hoof flowers today, and I just asked Ayu to take away a box. Lingling, bring the rest to them. I guess Lord Wen won't be here today. Who said I won't come? Mr. Wen smelled the smell and came. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 252. When you returned home and went directly to MRSG's room. Mother. MRSG had just finished her lunch. When she saw her coming back, she quickly put down her chopsticks and said, Ayu, have you eaten? How is the second aunt at home? Let's not talk about her first. I came to the store and brought some hoof flowers, and they are still hot. Let's eat them together. MRSG looked at the gentle and beautiful little girl. Her heart felt like honey. Okay. Let me try it. Is it made of Zuzu? Yes. The fermented bean curd. When you opened the box, scooped out a piece and put it into MRSG's bowl. As soon as MRSG tasted it, it was salty, fragrant, and soft, and melted in her mouth. Zuzu is really a good craftsman. Well, she especially likes to eat these glutinous and tough things, so, look at her little face, it's so smooth. Then let's eat more. After the two of them finished eating, the things were taken away, and tea was served. When you let out a long sigh. What's the matter? Sigh, I want to tell you, but it's really hard to say it. Is there anything else you can't say to me? Mother, Princess Huijuan, do you know? Of course I know. She is a little younger than me, and we had a good relationship when we were in the boudoir. Later, she became a widow, and she was afraid of causing trouble to others, so she didn't make many arrangements to see each other. After I got married, I didn't live a comfortable life. If you don't have the mind to think about it, there will be less communication. What kind of person is she? MRSG laughed heartily. When I was young, I looked cool, but in fact, I couldn't get out of the circle. But she is really a bit rebellious. She is talented and has a right idea. She only wants to be comfortable for herself and doesn't care about other people's gossip. I am right. Xiao and his brothers are very considerate of each other no matter what, and they arrange every detail. But she and her son are just like ordinary acquaintances. There is no such thing as a loving mother and a filial son. Why did you mention her? Princess Huijuan's husband is a good friend of the Mocking family. She is also very close to MRS Zhang. I heard, a few months ago, my second uncle and Princess Huijuan met for the first time at the Zhang family. Later, they met at our shop. I met her, and then, hey, we got along well over dinner, tea, and dancing. Now, my second uncle wants to marry the princess. What? Is there such a thing? MRSG actually laughed. Wen Yu's face turned red. Mother, daughter-in-law is in a dilemma here. What are you struggling with? Ouch. She laughed so hard that tears flowed out. Wen Yu hurriedly wiped it for her. Isn't this a good thing? If others heard that this happened to my daughter-in-law's family, wouldn't they laugh out loud? After finishing speaking, he curled his lips. It's none of their business. If anyone wants to gossip, just send them to Huiduan. If you can, talk to their face. You can't screw them up. Gee, that's a good idea. Tell me what's going on. MRSG was very excited. It is said that the second uncle took it seriously and confessed his love to the princess. The princess said that you are qualified to say this to me first, and then I will consider it. Well, the second uncle is going home to reconcile with the second aunt. The whole family, I can't defeat him. My grandmother is worried and my second aunt is worried. She just asked me to persuade her. Oh, this Huiduan is really, At such a young age, he is still fussing over this matter. Although MRSG was sighing, her when you could tell, is your mother-in-law envious? No, you must have seen it wrong. Grandma has high demands on my father, but she dotes on my second uncle. He has no fame and does not do anything. Finally, he has the support of family wealth and lives a comfortable life. He plays music, plays and sings, plays chess and games, speaks eloquently, and writes well. He always plays and plays. Yes, everything is well informed. My second aunt is a husband-oriented person, and my second uncle never interferes with whatever he says. But this matter, let's not talk about what others will think about it. To put it simply, if it succeeds, if my second uncle dares to do anything else in the future, he will be punished? MRSG snorted, everyone has his own destiny. Huiduan and your second uncle are destined to have a bad relationship, and it is reasonable to have a bad relationship. Likewise, your second uncle divorced his wife for her and ignored his children. Let Huiduan deal with any mischief in the future. He has nothing to be wronged about. Oh, mother, you are so transparent. You don't know, the princess's son is not easy to mess with. Really, when you smiled. Master Wen was very angry when he saw that he had come a little late and the hoof flower belonged to someone else. Yanzu was surprised, it's already past the time when you usually come. Can't come after a while, besides, even if I can't come, I will still send tigers to get it. Then, I have promised Mubo and his brothers, how about, you share it with them? Master Wen was not happy, but I just heard that you let Chiwu's wife take part of it. That's enough, I've even made glutinous rice balls. Then, okay, Mr. Wen reluctantly agreed. Mubo and Zhang Yuan looked at each other, then took down their chopsticks towards the hoof flowers that Mu Ling brought. Master Wen sat back in his usual place. Zuzu, you want to eat some too? Zuzu has already eaten. Then sit here and talk. Okay. Yanzu sat down with twinkling eyes. You have something to do today? Wen Ruo smiled lightly. Huh? No. No? Your expression doesn't look like there is no one. Really, it's bad, let him see it. Yanzu blinked her eyes and waited until Master Wen had eaten and drank enough before asking, Sir, Zuzu hasn't asked yet, do you have a daughter? Lord Wen was startled. Why do you ask about this? Tell me about it. No, I don't have a daughter or a wife. Mr. Wen became indifferent and his face looked quite ugly. Ah, am I right? Where shouldn't I ask? Yanzu was a little nervous. Master Wen is indeed unhappy. If it were anyone else, he would probably lose his temper. But facing Zuzu, forget it. Why do you think of asking this? His expression was also very different from the usual peaceful one. I. Yanzu was frightened and didn't know what to say. Wen Ruoqing felt a little regretful. This place not only had good food, but also had an atmosphere that he liked very much. Sometimes, I feel like this is home. However, if his reverse scale is pulled, it will be the last time he comes here. I like the atmosphere here very much. I also know that you are not an ignorant girl. If you have something to say, if you don't, I will leave. He wiped his hands. Guyu, who was eavesdropping outside, blinked and a smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. Does he mean that he will never come again? That's very good. Master Wen suddenly became a stranger, and Yanzu was so scared, as if she was about to lose something important. No, Lord Zuwen, it's actually like this. She said quickly, like pouring beans out of a bamboo tube. After listening carefully, Wen Ruo's expression softened. The methods you mentioned really sound like the usual behavior of someone I know. Zuzu, this so-called Wen Xiangui has nothing to do with me. You are free to use whatever method you want to use to fight back. If you need my help, that's okay too, he smiled. You looked so scary just now. Yanzu relaxed and her nose felt sore. Okay. Silly girl. I'm not angry, I just don't like the topic. If I have a daughter, I hope she can be like you. Speaking of this, when Ruoking saw Yanzu, who was about to cry, as if he overlapped with a figure in his mind. Suddenly his vision went dark, and he heard a sharp pain like a needle pricking and held his head in both hands. Left on the table. Yanzu jumped up, Master Wen? Guyu, she shouted subconsciously. Guyu stepped in and helped Wen Ruoking, who was falling to the ground. Yanzu stared and pointed, what's wrong with him? Guyu Jian Wen Ruoking clenched his teeth and trembled deeply, as if he was in extreme pain, he seemed to be vomiting. So she reached out and touched the back of his neck. Wen Ruoking dropped her hands and fainted. What's wrong? What's wrong with him? Yanzu panicked. It doesn't matter, maybe I have a headache, go ask the doctor. Upon hearing this, Yanzu turned around and ran out. When he met Song Shang, he said anxiously, Brother Song, Mr. Wen has fainted. Call the doctor quickly. Song Shang said to the people around him, go and invite Mr. Huang. After saying that, he entered the screen. Guyu lowered her head and supported Wen Ruoking. Carry it to the private room upstairs, Song Shang said. Guyu hugged Wen Ruoking with both hands. He strode upstairs and found a soft spot in the private room, so he placed him on it. Yanzu followed closely, it doesn't matter, right? Guyu, you won't hurt him, right? He just ate a lot, won't he choke? Don't worry, I didn't hurt him. The doctor will be here soon. Don't worry. Seeing Yanzu's anxious look, Guyu felt distressed and comforted her softly. Song Shang said, is there anyone following him? You have to go to Wen's house to invite someone. Yanzu remembered, Huzi is chatting with someone outside. Call him up quickly. After a while, a young man of 17 or 18 years old came up. Sir, he was also startled. Song Shang said, Master Wen seems to have a sudden headache and has already asked a doctor. Has he ever had such symptoms in daily life? Is there a doctor you know well? Huzi said, my lord has been injured and occasionally gets headaches. You don't need to take medicine on weekdays. Only when you get sick, the doctor will use medicinal needles. It's not easy to move him now. Which doctor showed him? Besides, let someone talk to my family. Huzi shook his head, my lord has given me instructions not to tell my family these things. It was Dr. He from He Yantang who always showed me. Go to Heian Hall quickly to ask for Dr. He, Song Shang ordered. Yanzu made a small stool and sat next to Mr. Wen, looking at him worriedly. Guyu stood aside and looked at Yanzu worriedly. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 253. That day, Ms. Lu was made a fuss by MRSG. At first, I wanted to call Chi Yu back immediately, but then I thought about it, but it couldn't be done. That dog of his has a cowardly temper, and sometimes he doesn't care, and he really dares to get into trouble. You haven't got anything yet, so don't make him angry. I rested for a long time, and when I saw Chi Yu again, I used the excuse that my girl had seen the scene in the garden, and gave him some kind words. Chi Yu gave him a listening ear and touched his chin. There was a personal maid in his yard who followed him around, so he asked her to inquire about it. When I came back, I said that Xiaowu's yard was well guarded. I only heard from a second-class girl, the fifth daughter-in-law called that person Zazu. It was the first time he came back. I don't know who he was. She's also called Zazu, why isn't she called Tutu? Chi Yu secretly laughed. Lu said it for a long time, thinking he had listened. When Yu saw that everything in the yard was normal these days, so he let Xiaoji go. Within 2 days, Xiaoji came back to report. Aunt Xiaoyun came to Beijing when she was 6 years old. She was brought here by a woman in her 40s or 50s. Her hometown is Jinzhou. Mrs. Ho called her aunt. Her husband and son were both dead. The daughter-in-law ran away with someone, and the family could not live well. I happened to find out about Mrs. Ho, so I came to Beijing to find her bride. Mrs. Ho left them to live in the mansion for a few days, and then rented a small courtyard in the back neighborhood and asked the women to move out. I also bought a mother-in-law and a girl to serve me. But Aunt Xiaoyun stayed in the house. Mrs. Ho said she was very pitiful and kept her by her side. Aunt Xiaoyun has been good-looking since she was a child. Our eldest man really regards her as his sister and always buys food and supplies for her outside. Mrs. Ho has always been very kind to her and even takes classes with the girls at home. The woman was not in good health and died of heart disease within a few years. After hearing this, when you thought it was nothing but strange that a woman in her 40s could go to Beijing with a little girl. However, maybe Mrs. Ho's life was better and she went back to promote her family, but she was afraid that others would gossip, so she was looking for excuses. I heard that the Queen gave me the marriage, and the eldest man was very sad. He knelt in Mrs. Ho's room and begged for a long time. Mrs. Ho had no choice but to give her to him as his aunt. And she has been doting on him ever since. Alas, it's really not easy for us, madam, to do this. I can't get in touch with her on weekdays. What's Aunt Xiaoyun's temperament like? When you asked. Good-tempered and quiet, he never competes for favors or creates trouble for his wife. With the old lady protecting her and the eldest master doting on her, no one dares to look down upon her. Everything she uses is first class. Even the second master and the kitten girl, the treatment is the same as that of a legitimate son and daughter. I heard that the eldest master gave her a lot of private rooms. Hey, I guess he didn't even give it to our wife. My mother-in-law is rich. No need, when you snorted coldly. Don't need anything, Chi Wu came back. When you quickly stood up and asked, why are you back so early? There's not much going on today, the grandson said, the concubine misses you, so I'll leave you free. Is there any place in the East Palace that I can go to if I want to, Your Highness? Is it good? It rained a few days ago and I caught a little cold, but I should be fine. Would you like Zuzu to make a bowl of spicy soup? I'm so sweaty after eating that, it's so comforting. I'll ask you tomorrow, I'm sweating all over, so I'll go and wash up first. After taking a shower, I changed into the clothes prepared by Wen Yu and came out refreshed. Wen Yu stood behind him and wiped his hair, while telling him about Wen Feng. Chi Wu turned around and looked at Wen Yu without saying a word. The hair is wet, the hair on the eyes is wet, the whole person is clean and innocent. What's wrong? Why are you looking at me like this? Wen Yu asked in a low voice, feeling confused and a little uneasy. I encountered a case. Chi Wu stretched out his hand to pull her and sat next to him. A colleague's wife killed his concubine and the son born by the concubine. The concubine was very good looking and he loved her very much. When we were drinking together, I heard him brag that his wife had given birth to 2 daughters, and his concubine had given birth to a son. Some time ago, the concubine insisted on recording the birth of the son in his wife's name, but of course the wife did not agree. Then, for some unknown reason, the younger daughter fell into the well in the backyard and drowned. His wife stabbed the woman and her son to death with scissors. After hearing this, Wen Yu was stunned for a while. So, that stupid man got his wish now. There was sarcasm in the corner of his mouth. Why don't you scold that concubine for being extravagant and unruly? It is human nature to push the limits and look forward to Shu. There are rules, but she doesn't abide by them. She is not punished but gets benefits. Of course she will no longer abide by them, but will actively break them. She even wants to set her own rules. What about men? In fact, it is human nature to like beautiful things because of food and color. But why would he marry an ordinary-looking wife? It's nothing more than coveting her origin and dowry. Want everything. However, that's how things are in the world. I'm afraid even the princess will be troubled by this. Don't worry, I won't let this happen to you, Chi-woo confessed. When you smiled, I am different from this woman. I will not hold back. Nor will I put all the weight of my happiness on others. No matter if that person is a husband or a child. When talking about Princess Huijuan with my mother, although we don't agree with her actions, we admire her courage. Chi-woo's heart tightened. Although the two of them were already husband and wife, he always felt uneasy sometimes. While when Yu was busy working, he felt both proud and a little worried. It seems that she can live quite well without him. He quickly pulled her back. Ayu, don't admire her, I won't let you be in that situation. We are married and we are husband and wife. We share honor and disgrace, and share happiness and joy. You see, I am busy outside, but knowing that you are at home makes me feel at ease. Although I don't pay much attention to what you do. But I can also relate to your excitement and joy after it's done. I am not good at words, and I don't understand romance, but I know it in my heart. I hope you are like me, the safe place of your heart is home. These words, although plain, are sincere. To be able to say it out of his mouth was beyond Wen Yu's expectations. Her eyes showed deep affection unconsciously, and she looked at him curiously. Ying Ying's eyes turned Chi-woo's ears red. Wen Yu nodded, okay. Then I promise you that I will do my best. The two people suddenly felt that they were much closer to each other. Then, there was the lingering in the middle of the night, which turned out to be the happiest time for the two of them since they got married. Qin Lianyu from the Zhang family huddled in bed and cried most of the night. The two concubines entered the door at the same time. The eldest sister-in-law is the housekeeper, and she does everything according to the rules. In the courtyard room, the staff are arranged neatly but not in an ostentatious manner. Sister-in-law even takes extra care of her emotions. No girl or woman in the house gossips, and even the food is cooked to suit her taste. As before, her husband joked with her, brought back interesting things from outside, and even took her out as a guest. But the concubine matter was never mentioned again. It's as if the busyness over there doesn't exist. Today, a few tables were set up, a few friends came over, and he has been busy there. She was looking forward to him coming back from socializing and returning to her place. Tell her that this is just a difficult situation for her mother. He himself was reluctant. He won't enter the door over there. But in the end, a king came back and said that he had gone to Aunt Chu's place. The red candle went out. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 254. Jian Pingting was in the East Palace and couldn't get out easily, so she went there because she was worried about her friends and family. Today, it's warm words. When you had already sent a message to Yanzu to get ready, and then went to pick her up. Arrived at the store, when you first told Master Qing the news he had learned. He said he came from Jinzhou. Is that your hometown? Master Qing shook his head. My hometown is in Zhejiang, more than 300 miles away from Jinzhou. In my memory, none of my sisters married there. Moreover, the sisters definitely didn't marry into such a family. There would be no mother-in-law from a humble background. Wandering around with their granddaughters, they may be affected by the decline of their parents' families, but they will not abandon their daughters and run away with others just because their husbands are dead. When you nodded, things happened so long ago that the people who knew about them are either dead or missing. These are things that the juniors heard occasionally from the elders. If they are passed down from generation to generation, there will definitely be errors. Yeah. I guess most of the people in the rental house are gone. In fact, This is just a thought. I'll just check it out. I originally wanted to invite the old lady to the store, but when you smiled and said, she has always refused. If you have a chance, go to the house and see if you know her. Okay. However, don't be mean. You are a granddaughter-in-law and a mother-in-law twice above. You must be careful. Mrs. Ho will never see us craftsmen casually again. Okay. What is Zuzu busy with? I didn't see her even when I came. She's been busy these days. Did you know that Mr. Songwoo has bought an inn nearby? No, when did it happen? It should be that our shop is starting to be renovated. He bought it from there and has been tidying it up. It will be ready to open in a few days. I went to take a look yesterday. It's very high-end. Uncle Song is so wealthy and powerful that it's incomparable. Is it very close? A few steps away. The front is not big, but it's big inside. My uncle said that from now on, all meals at the inn will be ordered from us. Oh, then I'm going to get rich. When you was happy. Master Ching also laughed. Uncle Song is really generous. Coupled with the work done by the bank's big clients a few days ago, you are going to make a fortune. Same joy, when you smiled. Oh, I forgot to mention that Lord Wen was ill at our place that day. Master Ching explained the matter. Later, Dr. Huang, whom Mr. Songwoo was looking for, and Dr. He, who is often used by Dr. Wen, both came. The two of them had a good chat. After the injection and medicine, they woke up soon. It's just that he is relatively weak, and his home is far away from ours. It was quite far, so Master Songwoo moved him to the inn. The literary master was quite generous and immediately rented a suite on the second floor to live in. It's better now. Zuzu is given 3 meals a day. He even prepared the medicine himself and was busy taking care of the patients. When you rolled her eyes and felt sour, let us Zuzu serve you. What kind of behavior is Master Wen doing? No, I have to call her back. Run to the kitchen. I saw Yanzu cooking medicine and giving orders to the little girl. Zuzu, are you making medicine? Who is sick? When you asked knowingly. Ayu. When Yanzu saw her, she no longer had the mindless joy of the past, but became much calmer. Zuzu, what's wrong with you? When you was startled. Master Wen is ill. That day, I was frightened. Yanzu said, her eyes still red. When you hurriedly hugged her, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. Didn't you say it's okay? It's okay now, but at the time, it scared me. Guyu was fanning the fire beside him. Although he didn't dare to say anything, he didn't take it seriously. He is very depressed. That piece of dogskin plaster is firmly attached. He actually lived next to it. He went to see it secretly. When Ruoking's body was obviously fine. He was still working just now, but as soon as Zuzu went upstairs, he knew it and immediately leaned over there. At such an old age, it is really shameless to still do this. At this moment, Guyu stopped thinking about how much smaller her white hair was compared to others. Sticking to Yanzhu's side incognito, and pretending to be snored. He continued to fan. The emperor didn't check his grades. Was he just pretending like this? Seeing Yanzu busy with medicine again, when you was not happy, how long will he have to drink? The doctor said, after drinking these 3 doses, come back for a consultation. Sometimes if you drink this medicine, your stomach will return acidity, so you have to eat some snacks before drinking it. You can't add sugar, so you have to take it alone. So troublesome. When you curled his lips. Ayu, I'm afraid you don't know. Brother Songwoo built an inn right next to the hotel. Seeing that Master Wen was sick here and too weak, he was put in. He became the first guest. Yanzu smiled. I just heard what Master Ching said when you said in confusion, Zuzu has only treated her like this. Who is Wen Ruoking? Zuzu, everyone in the Wen family is here. Is there no one here to take care of him? Yanzu handed the things to Guyu, and then said to Wen Yu, "We have heard about the Wen family before. His mother, it's so pitiful for him. Besides, you don't know, I was the one who caused his illness by asking about his family that day." Yan Zhu's eyes turned red and he was about to cry again. "Okay, okay. Didn't you say that he has a root cause of illness? He has attacks from time to time. How can I blame you? Besides, I don't blame those who don't know. If he gets sick because of this, then I will look down on him. Woolen cloth." Yan Zhu stopped crying. "It will be fine in a few days. Ayu, I didn't delay anything. We have prepared all the things we need to go to the East Palace. Just send the medicine and leave, okay? Okay. I'll go see the patient too," Wen Yu said, dissatisfied. Gu Yu smiled secretly. After a while, the medicine was ready. Yan Zhu poured it into the jar, put it in the incubator, and picked it up. "Let's go. Go and see that inn, it's so luxurious." Wen Yu followed Yan Zhu, and he hadn't gone very far when he reached the inn. When he entered the door, he saw a passage, and then suddenly he saw a courtyard, pavilions, and exotic flowers and plants. Further forward is the place where guests are received. Further inside, one door after another. There are stairs next to it, and there are also stairs upstairs. Oh my God, I really didn't notice it before, but it's such a big area. After going upstairs, Huza stood at the head of the corridor. Seeing them coming, he smiled all over his face. "Miss Zuzu. MRSG Wu. We adults are meeting guests downstairs and will be coming up soon. Please come in." "Wait a moment, wait." Having said that, open the door. The spacious living room is filled with pure light-colored beechwood furniture, light-colored carpets, and beautiful bonsai. Elegant, clean, and without any fuss. There are several doors next to it, which should be bedrooms and clean rooms. Looking at the elegant rooms, Wen Yu thought, what kind of people would I face if I opened an inn here? Yan Zhu took out something and asked Hu Zi, "Is your excellency feeling better?" Gu Yu also followed in, sitting on a small stool by the door, rolling her eyes in her mind. "You've already been here once this morning, okay. How can he get better after such a short time? How bad could it be? Haven't you heard that everyone went to receive guests?" There was a sound of footsteps at the door, and the patient was back. When people entered the door, Gu Yu saw Master Wen's steps as expected. He couldn't tell at all that he was very confident when he was training his subordinates just now. "Master Wen, how are you?" Wen Yu stood up and looked at him with a half smile. Lord Wen was a little surprised when he saw Wen Yu. He coughed and restrained himself a little. Yan Zhu leaned over and said seriously, "If you are not feeling well, please don't visit us now. If you catch a cold later, you will be in trouble." Mr. Wen blushed a little. "Don't worry, it's much better. MRSG Wu is here, please sit down." I was shocked when I saw Zuzu just now. Her little face has become thin, sir. If not, how many girls and boys can I arrange to come over?" Wen Yu said with dissatisfaction. No, no, no. No need. In fact, I don't have much to do anymore. I'm just taking medicine to strengthen myself. Thank you for your hard work, Miss Zuzu, these days. Your Majesty, you're welcome. Zuzu has a simple temperament, and she feels very guilty because she's just afraid that she might make you sick. Master Wen doesn't like Wen Yu's tone. But I could only sigh. Yes, she is smart and simple, she is a good girl. Suddenly, an idea came to her. "Miss Wen, I have been chatting with Zuzu these days and learned about her life experience. You two little girls grew up dependent on each other. Especially you are both so outstanding. It is really rare. These days, she takes good care of my illness, and I like this girl very much. So, I came up with an idea. What do you think of accepting her as your adopted daughter?" Wen Yu was surprised, and so was Yan Zhu. Does this confirm her? Guyu's face was solemn, he was not happy. Once Mr. Wen has figured it out, his words will become smoother. Although you are younger than Zuzu, you are more like her sister. Now that you are married and are the daughter-in-law of the Qi family, you cannot take Zuzu with you. Although you have arranged a place for her, people to serve her, and guards. But he glanced at the man in blue at the door. She is a girl after all. To be honest, it doesn't make sense to keep going like this. She is already so old, and she has to talk about marriage. If her father is still alive, he is probably about my age. With me as his backer, he will still be able to talk about marriage in the future. If I give her a dowry, the marriage will be better. When you is really serious, this is really good. Zuzu won't marry, Yanzu said. Nonsense, Mr. Wen glared at her and said to Wen Yu, if this happens, I will take care of her marriage. He will definitely not ask me to be his son-in-law. Thinking back to Lord Wen's attitude towards him in ordinary times, Guyu became extremely excited and stood up quickly. Lord Wen looked at him provocatively. The sparks between the two of them were not noticed by Wen Yu. Instead, she looked at Yanzu, Zuzu, you. She wanted to ask Yanzu if he was willing, but it didn't seem right to ask in front of Mr. Wen. Then let's go back and discuss it. I have never had any children in my life. If I accept Zuzu as my daughter, I will definitely treat her well. Moreover, the adoption ceremony must be decent, a banquet must be held, and my friends must be invited to witness it. When the time comes, I will book your shop, come down and do it. Also, I'll get the gift for my adopted daughter from your store. This is an inducement, but it tastes good. Yustinbeo said he hoped Zuzu would have a backer, and here he is. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 255. After finishing working on the patient, Wen Yu took Yanzu to the East Palace. Li Zhang drove, and Guyu followed behind with her eyelids lowered. Seeing the general's concubine, Wen Yu immediately told what happened. Master Wen looks quite serious. I think this is also a good thing for Zuzu. What do you think? The general concubine nodded. Master Wen, I have heard a lot about him in my boudoir. He is open-minded, upright, and very smart. He has some biases in tax law and accounting. The emperor thinks highly of him. I have also heard about his family affairs. Somehow, my father was henpecked, and after the death of the princess and the prince-in-law, the family was in a state of disgrace. But even if we are willing, don't agree yet. The old lady in his family may have to mix it up a bit. Although Zuzu doesn't have a good background, but with us protecting her, she's not far behind. In this case, don't use it as an excuse to cling to a wealthy family. Only then did Wen Yu realize, you're right, I didn't think everything through. Well, Zuzu is innocent and has no scheming, it also depends on how Mr. Wen thinks of his daughter. Listen to what he said, it must be very solemn. Not to mention, after they have been together for a few days, they even look a bit alike when talking. Zuzu has become calm. Yanzu interrupted, Zuzu is usually calm. The concubine smiled. How are you doing here? Before the concubine could say anything, the female official in front came and said, Your Highness, please ask the concubine to bring the guests over. Let's go, I said on the road. The two of them walked forward hand in hand. His Royal Highness has been in good health since the hot spring. The affairs of the East Palace are also going well. The prince caught a cold on rainy nights a few days ago. He was afraid of getting sick, so the grandson let him rest. The weather is not too cold now, but it will definitely be a little cooler if it rains. How are the people down there taking care of us? The two big eunuchs around me are usually very considerate, but that day, my grandson asked me, and the on night duty said that I don't know why, he fell asleep. Ah, Ping-ting, will there be someone there? He pulled Ping-ting away. At this time, a group of people came from the front. The one walking at the front was the grand concubine, holding her chin high. He walked up to Wen Yu and his party and stood down. Empress Taijun, Ping-ting bowed her knees and saluted. Wen Yu still had no official orders, so he had no choice but to kneel down on this occasion. I've seen the grandson Empress Yanzu and Laba, who was holding something, also knelt down. Shui Ying did not speak, but the female officer next to her spoke. Concubine, who are these people? This is the fifth wife of the Zhenyuan Marquis Mansion and her entourage, who have come to see you at the invitation of His Highness the Crown Prince. Have you checked everything? What did you get? Shui Ying asked. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince asked me to take charge of it, specifically. Open this palace and take a look. Beside the prince came over. Your Highness asked, why hasn't the person arrived yet? Shui Ying looked at several people fiercely, flicked her sleeves and left. Wen Yu secretly sighed at his bad luck, got up by himself, and bounced the dirt. Let's go, the concubine said without any expression. The prince has already put on his jacket. In a corner of the hall, a charcoal stove was lit, but the grandson was not in front of him. Everyone saluted, and the prince smiled and said, Wen Yu, Yanzu, how is the business of the shop? His voice was a little murmuring. Wen Yu and Yanzu, you reported to me word by word. Wen Yu also smiled and said, Your Highness, my wife's small shop is a major taxpayer on that street. You will be rewarded at the end of this year. The prince laughed and coughed twice. Okay. There is a reward. Write it down, remind me later, and make suggestions to the emperor. Merchants who have made great contributions to the court will be rewarded. Gu Yu was waiting outside the palace gate. He felt that Li Zhang was too verbose, so he paced a little far away from the car. His real name is Hu Fei. He was born with an abnormality. As soon as he fell to the ground, he had white hair and white eyebrows. At that time, although the elders threw him away without disdain, they were almost worried to death. Unexpectedly, his talent is extremely high. Moreover, he is still a good baby and recognizes his own name at the age of 1. At the age of 3, he could recite hundreds of poems. Since he was 5 years old, he has been immersed in endless lessons, studying literature and martial arts all day long, and he has been doing it for several years without getting bored at all. A good chess player and a good sword dancer. And all kinds of miscellaneous arts and crafts can be picked up. Having raised such an outstanding descendant, the elders probably boasted a few words when offering incense to their ancestors. Unexpectedly, when he came of age and was about to get married, a big problem would occur. The reason is that he refuses to get married. The reason for not getting married is, I don't like it. Because he was so special, his parents and elders really didn't dare to impose worldly things on him, so girls from hundreds of miles around made portraits for him to look at. Even people from the capital came. As a result, not only did he fail to succeed, but it also aroused his rebellion. 4 words, never marry. The family invited masters and great scholars to persuade them, but none of them could make sense. He wasn't afraid of the tough ones and just started to pick them up. While others were worrying about his marriage, he was doing things and creating a lot of benefits for the family. The clan elders spent their time in a daze amid happiness and suffering. Until that year, when he went out, he rescued Yang Rishi. Even now, he still can't figure out what kind of feelings he has for her. That woman who was extremely beautiful but was ruined like a rag doll. For a long time after saving her, she was afraid, panicked, crazy, and closed off. Even, self-mutilation. He didn't know what emotions Yang Ru aroused in his heart, and he fell into it obsessively. Take care with your own hands, not artificial hands. He had seen her in all her ugliest and most humble ways. Even, I was beaten and scolded by her when she was crazy. That feeling was love, care, obsession, appreciation, and redemption. It's still the kind of tear that wants to save her from fire and water, but also wants to let her sink. He took her back to Hu's house and invited numerous famous doctors to see her. They all said that she was too stimulated and was closing herself off. Is it closed? Then I'll pull you out. So, he told the Hu family that he wanted to marry her. This of course caused an uproar in the Hu family. But the more others stop him, the more he insists. Uncompromising, as if he could give up everything for her at any time, and even die with her. The family had no choice but to give in again. A few years after getting married, Yang Rishi was still not sober. He does not dislike it. Companionship, pampering, comfort, care. Never force. Yang Ru's condition improved and she now knew who she was. But she was like a faint, void shadow. Not talking, not moving, just sitting in the room for the whole day. In addition to official duties, he spends time with his wife. On days like this, there was no talk of happiness or unhappiness, but he accepted his fate. As if this is what he deserves. Until, she died, he went crazy. Hu Fei was pacing back and forth beside the carriage. Today's events made him uneasy. Even before she was fully awake, she already recognized Yanzu. I don't know if it's because of her good-looking appearance, her kindness when feeding him, or something else. He followed her to the shop and back home. At night, find a corner to hide. During the day, he had to endure the nagging Li Zhang, which was not easy for him. But this behavior has become a habit of his. He doesn't know why, but he must do it. Until he woke up, he discovered that his heart was torn and riddled with holes. I don't know when, but I was healed by this beautiful woman in front of me, and it was like a new life. He did not return to his clan, and he did not even send a message to his residence in the capital. I want to marry her, but I don't plan to take her back because my family will definitely stop me. Although, he will still fight and win. But he didn't want to go through it again. This kind of beautiful emotion should be blessed by everyone. Instead of looking at her with critical eyes. She is perfect, but she is the one who is not perfect. He is the one who is trying to reach higher, and those people will not understand. They only care about the prosperity of the Hu family. Why do you care about the name East Hu 11 Bai? How happy were those elders about the fall of the Bai family? I think the Hu family is better than the Bai family. He was unwilling to let Zuzu go through what Yang Rishi had gone through. But if you want to marry her, you must be able to support her. What can you do to support yourself? Before he could think of the next step, he was disrupted by Wen Ruoqing. He actually wants to accept Zuzu as his adopted daughter. What's even more frightening is that Wen Ruoqing is obviously unhappy with him following Yanzu. While he was walking back and forth, two people came out of the East Palace and were about to get in the car. One of them accidentally glanced over and saw his back. I was suddenly stunned for a moment. Seeing him stop, another person wondered. Look, he pulled the person next to him and hid on the side of the carriage. Hu Fei walked over and turned around now. Two people almost screamed, was it him? They all rubbed their eyes, why are their eyebrows black? His hair is covered and his appearance cannot be seen clearly. Is it him? Picture. But, the eyebrow color is wrong. Another one, why is he here? Look at that jade pendant, one of them saw it and pointed tremblingly. Oh my God. First. The other one is about to pounce. What should we do? Follow him, don't get close, and see where he settles. Then don't leave, and have someone deliver a message back. I'll go back and send a message to Mr. Shi. And I'll take someone to find you. If he settles in the capital, he won't hurry and admit it. If he is only here temporarily and wants to leave, then he must be detained no matter what. Okay, go quickly. Are you keeping an eye on? He thought without worry. He came with the car? He stopped here. Is he also going to the East Palace? Waiting for someone. After that, he took out the money from his body, nodded and bowed to pay the bribe. Guard, ask who owns that car. The guard looked at the generous reward and asked about nothing important, so he said, that is the carriage of the fifth wife of the Zhen Ho family. The two people thanked each other and stepped back, looking at each other. Marquis Zhen? I don't recognize you. Why are you following his fifth wife's carriage? Ignore it for now. You've spotted someone. I'll go back to Fiji to pass a message and notify Mr. Shi. The stinkers asked, are you serious about naming your son Hu Fei? Author's answer, I am mentally retarded. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 256. When you left the house. The Tan family started to get busy. Call several granddaughter-in-laws to come and talk. Mr. Su is also here today. After resting for a while, she finally felt better, her face was rosy, and she had gained strength. So, I dressed up well, came out early, and walked around the garden. So, I ran into Zhu on the way. The two of them chatted and went to the old lady's house together. In fact, Mrs. Su was all joking and Mr. Zhu was supporting it. Su couldn't see the arrogance in her eyes. I thought the conversation was quite speculative. When I met Wang at the door, she remained low-key and always had a smile on her face. Her plumpness has not diminished since she gave birth to a baby, and she is still white and shiny, and she looks like she is living a good life. But lately, I've been feeling awkward. From pregnancy to delivery, the husband did not take any concubines, nor did he promote anyone. Wang originally thought that her mother-in-law would not interfere in matters in her yard. My beautiful aunt has a very good temperament and doesn't care about other people's business. She didn't have to go through what other women had to go through. On that day, her husband unexpectedly asked her for her dowry girl. She said that she had already promised the girl to someone else. Her husband seemed unhappy and took the girl away from him. The matter is not out of the hospital, and no one else knows about it. But she couldn't help but feel a little upset. Zhang Mocking also came, and she was not very happy. Aunt Lu used various methods to induce pregnancy again. Aunt Lu couldn't deal with Qiyu, and she also had concerns about the Zhang family. So, without saying anything, I sent her soup and water all day long. Zhang Mocking was very angry. Your son has returned to his hometown again. I am alone, can I get pregnant just by drinking soup? Mrs. Tan looked at her granddaughter-in-law who looked like flowers, and she was smiling. First, he asked Mr. Su carefully about his symptoms, eating and drinking, and then his sleep. He also asked, Chi Xiao hasn't made you angry again, has he? If he has, tell grandma and grandma will take care of him. Mrs. Su was moved. Fortunately, I have a grandmother who loves my grandson-in-law. Who does it hurt? Don't be afraid of him, grandmother, and your grandfather. If he is naughty, let your grandfather beat the stinky boy. Everyone laughed. Tan said, hurry and make the tea that the Marquis brought back. Minghui can't drink tea, so I made fruit and white fungus soup. It's so thin that it can be drank as water. I haven't slept well these 2 days, so I don't dare to drink it tea. Let's drink white fungus. The tea was poured and the white fungus was served. Mrs. Tan took a few sips and then looked around. Hey, where is the fifth daughter-in-law? Where is Wen Yu? You didn't go to invite her. The girl in her room quickly said, Old madam, didn't fifth grandma go to the East Palace? I told you. Ouch, Mr. Tan slapped his forehead. with a huge pearl hanging on his head, swinging back and forth. Look at my memory. I obviously said it, but I forgot it in the blink of an eye. After hearing this, MRSU and MRSJU's expressions were already very bad. Tan turned around and asked, mocking, why didn't you follow? Zhang mocking, go back to my grandmother. My granddaughter-in-law doesn't know where Au has gone. And I'm afraid there are rules when entering and exiting the East Palace. That's right, Mr. Tan nodded, I haven't come here for a while. Actually, what I mean is, Xiaoxi has family matters to do for the time being, but he has no official position. Sooner or later, this matter must be resolved. He has several brothers above him. Zhang mocking nodded in approval, that's what Grandma said. You and Wen Yu are good friends, and Xiaoxi and Xiao are also favored by your mother. Xiao's matter is settled. Xiaoxi, go back, I will tell Wen Yu that girl, if there is an opportunity to support my brother, you have to think about it. Su's face turned dark again. But MRS Tan looked at her and smiled, don't worry about Xiao, he has a place to go. It will be easy for the Marquis to change his place in the future. Don't be anxious, MRS Su knew that MRS Tan hurt her, and her eye circles were red again. Okay Minghui, I'm just chatting, so I don't want to provoke you, you need to take good care of yourself quickly, I'm still counting on you for the housework, drink some tremella fungus quickly. After talking for a while, the Marquis came back and everyone dispersed. Zhang mocking thought as she walked, she had seen many ladies of Madame Ho's age. Generally they are dignified and restrained, and speak as preciously as gold. Wearing gem armor, you don't even look at people. Unlike this Madame Ho, she has no scheming, is plain and funny, speaks faster than her brain, and cares about everyone as carelessly as the grandmother of an ordinary person. But actually, it's really one step at a time. Look at today, the eldest sister-in-law, the third sister-in-law and I are all smiling, but everyone has a needle in their heart. What is she planning? In fact, Zhang mocking didn't know that there are people who are like poisonous scorpions lying on frogs crossing the river. They know that if the poisonous needle the frog, it will die and the frog will fall into the river and drown, but he just can't bear it. It needs to be pricked because this is its instinct. When Mr. Ho came back, he saw his old wife smiling happily, and even joked with her, why, you didn't ask your fifth daughter-in-law to come over to chat? You can chat happily without her, right? Tan's handkerchief covered her mouth, Master Ho, you actually look down on me. I am MRS Ho, or my grandmother. How can you argue with her, a granddaughter-in-law? I got angry for a while, and said a few words to you, and then it's over. It's not over yet. Where? Mr. Ho laughed and said, that's because you have a big heart. Although it's not as broad as the Marquis, it's still good. After saying that, she stopped laughing and said, it's not like we didn't invite this fifth grandma, don't you know? She went to the East Palace. Oh, went there again? Yes. It was said that the concubine missed her and asked her to have a relationship with the one named Zuzu. I can't figure out their relationship. I only heard that the girl was extremely beautiful. They went to the East Palace, they said that, His Royal Highness wants to see you. Mr. Ho said oh and did not answer. MRS Tan asked again, one time, the prince was ill and went to the Royal Hot Spring Resort. The two of them went with him. Mr. Ho was heartbroken. After MRS Tan finished speaking, she changed her words, oh, look at me. At that time, the prince, grandson, concubine, Xiao Wu, Wen Yu, and Yanzu went there. Wen Yu didn't seem to have entered the door at that time. You know this, right? Mr. Ho shook his head. MRS Tan then let out an ouch and said, I forgot, you hadn't come back at that time. Lord Marquis, something happened, ugh. Mr. Ho's face began to turn pale. Just like today, I don't know what I am doing. It was the official who is close to the prince, who came to the house to announce it. It would be better if the princess asked the female official next to her to come, you said, that is, His Royal Highness, with noble moral character and good health. It's not good. If not, you say. Okay, can you say this? Mr. Ho lost his temper rarely. Mrs. Ten was frightened and regretful. She quickly stood up and saluted. I am the one who made a mistake. Don't blame me, Lord Marquis. Mr. Ho snorted coldly and strode away. Mr. Ten showed a hint of a ferocious smile. Sue returned to the house and felt a little uncomfortable again in the evening. She said bitterly, it's all because of that when you. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 257. Kyo returned to the front and was very unhappy. He knows the Tan family very well, he has no city in his heart, is gentle and affectionate, has a kind heart, takes the overall situation into consideration, behaves in a measured manner, and never exceeds the rules. This is the first time in my memory that I have spoken so rudely and with malice today. Is it because she has a deep prejudice against Mr. Wen, or is Mr. Wen really going too far? Looking back on the little moments of so many years, I fell into deep thought. Although Chi Wu didn't accompany him to the East Palace, he still took a detour after finishing his work. As a result, Wen Yu really didn't come back. So, I waited for a while by the car outside the door. Anyway, with Li Zhang here, I wouldn't be bored. And that Hu Fei had already hid aside. When you came out and sent Yanzu home first, and then the young couple went home as well. As soon as I entered the second door, someone was waiting, smiling and saluting. Fifth Master, Fifth Grandma, Mr. Marquis invites you. It is common for the Marquis to find Chi Wu, and this is the first time he asks Wen Yu to come over. When the old Marquis saw the young couple entering the door, Chi Wu actually gave Wen Yu a hand. Okay, he picked up the teacup and took a sip. Grandfather? Are you back, everyone, please sit down. As soon as his touched the stool, Mr. Wen, did you go to the East Palace today? The Marquis asked. Yes, Grandfather. When you secretly wondered why the old man called him here. Have you met His Royal Highness? I saw it. I also saw the grandson concubine and the general's concubine. Tell your grandfather about this, he looked like he wanted to know from the beginning. Grandpa, the concubine is a good friend of my grandson-in-law. Sometimes, he will ask her to go to the East Palace to talk to her. She also likes the bacon rice dumplings and snacks in the store. She often sends someone to get it, or asks the store to. I didn't expect that His Royal Highness the Prince and His Highness the Grandson would taste it occasionally, and they liked it very much. So, my granddaughter-in-law would occasionally send some food over, but please don't worry, Grandpa, there will be someone in charge of everything you bring. Checked. The Marquis did not speak, and when you could only continue, I went to see the concubine today. Then, accompanied by the concubine, I went to the study of His Highness the Prince. His Highness asked the grandson's daughter-in-law about the situation of the shop. The granddaughter-in-law said, now the shop is he is already a big taxpayer. Please reward him at the end of the year. She smiled. Master Ho raised his eyebrows. This kind of relationship made him a little surprised. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince asked his subordinates to note it down and said he would report it to the Emperor. The Marquis nodded, although the words are a little casual, it's okay if His Highness the Crown Prince doesn't blame him. However, Grandpa feels inappropriate about those foods. You must know that His Highness's taboos are not just those that are commonly known. He is weak. I have never eaten or used it before, and I can't try it easily. Although you said that someone from the East Palace will check, it is related to the safety of the prince, and no one can bear any consequences. So, don't do this in the future. But you can discuss the specific operation with your concubine. Grandpa said yes, my granddaughter-in-law will think carefully and find an appropriate way to deal with this matter when the time comes. She will report it to my grandfather. Yeah, Mr. Ho was quite satisfied with Wen Yu's attitude. He then asked, who is that person named Yanzu? Yanzu is the daughter-in-law's companion since she was a child. Her mother has a certain relationship with her mother. She is also the goddaughter of grandson-in-law's uncle. She also met and had a good relationship with the general's concubine. Therefore, when entering the palace, they will ask their granddaughter-in-law to take her with them. The Marquis did not speak. Wen Yu added, Yanzu is a beautiful girl with good conduct, kindness, and a simple mind. Mr. Ho's expression did not change, but he was thinking to himself, how come these words seem to have some meaning? I feel a little heavy when I think of Tan's meaning just now. She has been with my grandson-in-law for so many years, we can say that we have grown up dependent on each other now. Some of the dishes in the store are made by her. She is very talented in cooking. Embroidery and other work are also recognized by the masters in the shop. It can be said that he is self-taught without a teacher. But it's also possible that it's too nimble in some areas, and a bit clumsy in others. He even often gets silly. She often didn't know how to misinterpret what His Highness the Prince said. Therefore, he often made His Highness laugh. Grandpa, as the Crown Prince, you can't get anything you want in the world. If she really likes Yanzhu's cooking, it would be Yanzhu's honor to have her serve as a cook in the palace for a few years. When you have free time, ask her to come over, make some food, talk and laugh. Maybe it is, as wise as a prince. There are too many smart people around, too many intrigues, malicious intentions, and people who dig holes and set traps step by step. Therefore, what he values more is simplicity and simplicity. Mr. Ho's heart was pounding. He felt that she seemed to be referring to someone, but he had no proof. Hearing this made him feel quite upset, but also extremely depressed. Li Qiwan settled the prince and gave instructions to the before returning to the concubine's room. Father, have you gone to bed? Zhang Pingting was gentler to him than before. He went to sleep. He said he felt much better. Today, my father drank a large bowl of spicy soup and then broke out in a sweat. He said that his nose was clear and his body felt loose. Let's get out quickly and let the big companion take care of us. It's much more comfortable to sweat like this than to drink medicine. I'm really tired today. He frowned. Pingting stood up behind him and rubbed his neck. Would you like to take a hot bath? Tai Shun gave a gentle hum. I haven't seen you. Are you busy at the front? He told Pingting to the people around him to prepare hot water, and then came back to press the button. Yes. She and Dong Zhenji are busy with the affairs of the Ministry of Personnel. Originally, it was my father who took the lead. I have so many things on my hands that I can't take care of them at the moment. Then when they have reached a certain point, will the Empress or Dong Zhenji report the progress to the prince, or to you? The grandson frowned and said, my mother and I both said not to disturb my father yet. He is just catching a cold now. If it develops, he may be aroused. Mr. Dongzhan is quite capable, but in my impression, he really didn't report it to me what's going on. Your Highness, I shouldn't interfere in these matters, but... Say it. You have mentioned Dong Zhenji to me twice. He is an official of the East Palace and should be responsible to His Highness the Crown Prince and to you. The father was in poor health, so the Empress did a lot of things on his behalf, but no matter how much she did, it was just a supplement. Let's not mention the Empress's thoughts. But what James Dong did was a bit strange. Which subordinate official is not aiming to accompany him to become an important minister in the court one day? So, he helped the Empress, and the more he did, the better. Is there really going to be a day when the Empress can put her hand into Jinluan and seek a future for him? If he couldn't do it, then why was he willing to help? Tai Shun listened with a serious expression. The young couple returned to their room, and Ziaji came over. The fourth grandma in front of me, Ruyi, said. After listening to Wen Yu, it was the old woman who was instigating the trouble again. She really wasn't shortchanged at all. Wulang, my grandfather wants to give the title to Chi Yuduan, right? Tell the third uncle by name directly. Chi Wu, who had just changed his clothes, smiled and sat next to her. That must be the intention. Otherwise, there has been no heir apparent for so many years. Can the emperor agree? In this regard, according to national laws and family rules, the rules are for the legitimate eldest son. However, under normal circumstances, it is based on the rule that if there is a legitimate son in the family, it cannot be given to the concubine. In other matters, the court does not interfere much. My grandfather, in front of the emperor, it's a bit thin. If there's no accident, I should leave it alone. Since the emperor doesn't care, then let's mention it openly. Are you afraid of hurting the eldest son's face? That's not clear. What are you thinking? I don't want to get involved in this family's things. Speaking of which, I really just married you and spent some money from the Chi family. What I spent before. He didn't know what he thought of and stopped. You don't want to get involved, and neither does the eldest master? It's obviously his thing, but he wants to give it to his stepmother's younger brother. In the future, will he still have the nerve to come out of this house? People won't ask, Chi Yi, what have you committed? That's wrong. Why didn't the Chi family pass on the title to you? When you shook her thin neck and acted vividly. Chi Wui was so powerful that he pulled her into laughter. Tell me, how did he respond at that time? There is also his mother-in-law who is more like a mother-in-law. She keeps saying she loves her. But when it comes to the knot, I want to see how she loves her. Ayu, don't worry about these unhappy people, I will take good care of you. You've been talking a lot of sweet words recently. When you looked at him and smiled. Chi Wu blushed. I have a lot of money, so I don't need you. Hey, hurry up and get me a royal decree. I even knelt down when I saw the grandson in the East Palace today. Really, my skirt is dirty and my knees hurt. Wherever it hurts, I'll rub it for you. Now Chi Wu opened his mouth and came. Aya, it's not there. Aya, it's not here either, you. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 258. That night, Mr. Ho did not go back to his room to sleep. This is quite common. Mrs. Tan is in a good mood. She knew it was inappropriate to say what she said today, but she did it on purpose. Only by talking about things in a disgusting way, the Marquis will be disgusted and instinctively stop her from doing it again, instead of investigating the right or wrong of the matter itself. Besides, what's right or wrong about such a thing? Assuming I don't know? It's just a few movies about girls who want to have with a dragon and a phoenix. When you can go to the East Palace, but he may have long regretted his marriage to the Chi family. Now, she is adding Yanzu as a supplement because she wants to accumulate a lot of connections in the East Palace. Then, she can take action on the power and interests of the Chi family. Humph, can such a little trick work to my advantage? When you doesn't care what she thinks? I called Mrs. Chi, took Zhang mocking with me, dressed up beautifully, and went to Mo's house happily. When Mrs. Tan heard about it, she couldn't help but wonder, what did the Marquis say when he called her? Meet Mrs. Song at the door of Master Mo's house, taking Song Shihan with her. As soon as when you saw Mrs. Song, she immediately went up to her and said, Aunt. Yours other aunt is coming too today. When the time comes, call her to speak. Don't get me wrong. Song Shihan was so disgusted that he heard it, and his little face was tense, like a rooster that wanted to blow its feathers. He immediately ran between Wenyu and Mrs. Song and squeezed Wenyu out hard. Mrs. Song smiled and talked to Mrs. Chi, you girl. Mrs. Chi. Hello. Mrs. Chi smiled, MRS song is particularly energetic today. It seems like something good is going on. MRS song was overjoyed. Seeing that Song Shihan was squeezing Wen Yu's words, she quickly said, Han Han, be careful if you fall. Looking at Song Shihan's red face, Wen Yu guessed that she knew that the stepmother was coming in, so she was using her own strength to resist it. It's a pity that you can't resist. Wen Yu didn't have the slightest pity for this girl. The housekeeper at the door was waiting for me. As soon as I arrived at the second gate, Grandma Mo came out to welcome me. Everyone smiled and greeted each other and entered the house. MRS Mo, MRS Wen is talking to a woman, and there is a woman sitting next to her. Seeing them come in, everyone stood up. After a while of greetings, Wen Yu came closer to MRS Wen. It seemed that the old lady was quite energetic. In the past 2 days, she didn't bother to ask how things were going at home. Old MRS Wen saw that Wen Yu came to visit and brought her mother-in-law with her, which meant that the two of them had a good relationship. She felt satisfied, and her smile was particularly sincere. MRS Mo Ching is here too. MRS Mo began to introduce, this is my good friend MRS Yao, whose maiden name is Zhao. This is her niece Yao Ruotong. Sister Zhao, this is. MRS Mo introduced one by one. When you saw Yao Ruotong, with a medium build, an oval face, curved eyebrows and almond-shaped eyes. He was not very good looking, but he was very upright. Especially a pair of clear almond-shaped eyes, which are straight and steady. Pretty good. Much better than Webster's self-righteous and ever-changing style. By the way, what did my cousin find out? Why didn't you tell me? While she was thinking wildly, everyone had already sat down politely. In terms of age, Wen Yu is younger than Yao Ruotong. Before, I heard that she grew up in front of her grandmother. Later, her grandmother suffered a stroke, and she insisted on serving her by her side, thus missing the wedding date. Upon hearing it, she sounds like a very filial girl. Especially MRS Song, she attaches great importance to this aspect. MRS Yao said, her parents have been in office, so she was raised by me myself. We got together and had a conversation, and then started chatting in 2s and 3s. When you asked MRS Wen, Grandma, how are things going at home? Old MRS Wen nodded, thanks to your and your aunt's persuasion, we finally reached an agreement and settled the matter quietly. I bought her a yard and will move there in the next 2 days. Alas. You can go back and take a look when you have time. Your father is not in a good mood, Grandma is old, and she really can't stand it. It's not an exaggeration to say that her skin is peeling. Her eyes at this moment also showed a hint of tiredness. Okay, when you responded with a smile. I went to visit my aunt again. My cousin was going to take the exam in a few days. The two of them discussed going to the temple to pray. After a while, Yao Ruotong came over. Ayu, can I call you this? Of course, Sister Yao. Two people walked aside to talk. Yao Ruotong smiled, I've heard of you, but I didn't expect you to be so good looking. I feel that my sister is generous, steady, and filial. She is a very nice person. Let's stop praising each other. The two people laughed. My parents have been working abroad. My elder brother will go to Beijing next year to take the imperial examination, and my younger brother will go to school outside. The Yao family also has many brothers but few sisters. When I see you, I feel close to you. I hope we can visit more in the future. Okay, the Song family, I used to go there often. I see that you and MRSG are getting along like mother and daughter. They must both have good temperaments. My mother has a cheerful personality and loves me very much. In fact, Aunt Song is also the same. She is kind-hearted and very easy to get along with. She is also very strong in raising my eldest cousin by herself. She is someone I admire very much. I can see that. Yao Ruotong nodded. My cousin is also very impressive. He is steady, very smart, and capable. He actually has a title, which makes me feel a little stressed. This is just to make it easier for him to socialize outside. It doesn't mean anything, my cousin, he is the most filial person. When you spoke softly, and Yao Ruotong nodded lightly. Suddenly, the two of them saw Song Shihan in the corner, glaring at them fiercely. Yao Ruotong was shocked that a little girl could have such eyes and expressions. When you didn't even look at it, and whispered, in the Song family, as long as you are filial to your aunt, gentle, sensible, and non-interfering with your cousin, you can basically live a good life. The only thing you need to pay attention to is its Song Shihan. She is the only daughter at my cousin's age. And Song was particularly fond of her, even doting on her. Although he knew that she had many bad habits, he always understood her with kindness and found excuses for her. As for you, don't feel sorry for her because of her pitiful life experience, or despise her because she is young. She is very thoughtful and ruthless. Yao Ruotong was even more surprised. She had thought about it. It was really pitiful for a little girl to experience separation from her parents at such an age. After you enter the house, treat her like your own mother. Wenyu, why do you say this? Wenyu had the sweetest smile on his face, but he spoke the coldest language, but you can't control her. And Song will be unhappy. However, this is not unsolvable. The first thing is that you have a safe life next son. Yao Ruotong was listening intently when you said something like this, which really made him dumbfounded. What did you say? I'm serious. Another option is to ask your aunt to help find a nun who comes out of the palace. She must be famous and have a strict temper. Then, you tell your aunt this. When you said instructing the bad girl. Laughing secretly in my heart. If your aunt can't be found, leave it to me. As soon as they met, Wenyu took down Yao Ruotong as her cousin. After chatting for a while, Zhang Mocking came over, and the three of them faced each other, chatting happily. Song Shihan became even more angry. Old Mrs. Wen sighed, Mrs. Yao, Song Shang is a good boy. He is very stable. How different from the one in my family. Alas. Look, the two children are not young anymore. Why don't we do something special? Hurry up and hold the wedding. In fact, both the Song family and the Yao family are willing to get married as soon as possible. But Mrs. Yao said, when Grandma Ruotong was alive, she loved her the most. The dowry had already been arranged neatly, but it was not easy for her parents and brothers to come back. If they were not here, they would be afraid that the wedding would not be solemn enough. Old Mrs. Wen said, you brought her up single-handedly, and you are closer than her mother. It is perfect for you, Mr. Yao, and the eldest son to get married. As long as you don't dislike the hasty preparations of the Song family, there will be no problem. The Song family is full of sincerity, how can the Yao family find fault? So, everyone happily reached a consensus. Mrs. Song happily settled down here. Wexler is sadly raising her baby, and Yang Xiangdong is coming back soon. Her pregnancy this time was not like the last time she was pregnant with Song Shihan, where she was so overwhelmed that she barely ate for a month. The one in my belly now is very well behaved. The doctor saw it and said the fetal condition was very good. But the more this happened, the sadder she became. Why do you have to be so sensible? What can I do to you? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 259. Master Wen, who had been staying in the inn for a while, returned home. Mr. Wen has been idle at home for many years. Every day, as long as his wife doesn't cause trouble for him or conflict with Ruo Qing, it is a day like a fairy. Fortunately, Ruoqing is always busy outside. The old wife and her daughter-in-law spent the whole day together, talking and laughing. No one cares about him, walking birds, fishing, drinking tea, and meeting friends. This life is so good. Seeing his son come back, the old man smiled broadly and flattered him, "Ruoking is back. Have you changed into the thick bedding that Dad sent you yesterday?" "Father, the things there are very complete, you don't have to." "How can such a personal thing be used in an inn?" Ruoking was the first one to move in, and all the supplies are brand new inside and out. "Hey, tell me about you. When you get interested, you can just rest there temporarily. How can you stay in an inn for a long time? Dad misses you, and it won't be good if people talk about it later. It's better to go home. Come and live." He was miserable. "Let's talk about it in a few days, father. If Ruo Qing comes back, I have something to tell you." "Say it." Ruo Qing met a little girl outside and felt that she was very close to her, so she wanted to recognize her as her adopted daughter. When old Mrs. Wen heard the first half of the sentence, he thought it was, his son wanted to take a concubine. Then he quickly thought that before closing his eyes, he might be able to see his grandson. He was excited and his eyes were hot. As a result, I heard the second half of the sentence, which was about recognizing the adopted daughter. "My adopted daughter." The old man's expression and tone showed his disappointment, but after looking at it, his son didn't respond. "That's fine. That's easy. Just give me 2 pieces of jewelry and make 2 sets of clothes. That's it. If I live my life lightly, I might never have any children, so I want to make it more formal and grand." These words made the old man sweat a little. "Wen Xiangui? When you say more formally, you mean?" "I want to have a banquet at Yuzi Yowei restaurant and invite friends to come and witness, then you will also have to sit high and accept her gift," Wen Ruo said lightly. "Huh? Is it really so grand?" the old man asked cautiously. "Of course, otherwise, what would I do with her? Who is this woman, what is her origin? Her real name is Yanzu." When Ruoking lost her mind, those close to her call her Zuzu. She is a good sister who the 5th wife of the Qi family grew up with. She also recognized Mrs. Jiwu's uncle as her godfather. He's got a hairpin," his tone was sour. "Her father Chen's official position is not as high as mine, his ability is not as strong as mine, and his family background is not as good as mine. This time, I will get some marriage recognition gifts to compare with him. Father, she is a considerate and good girl. You also know that if you are picky, you have a very high vision. It is rare that this idea comes to mind, so it must be made grand. Then, let it be done." Mr. Wen had no choice but to say, "It's up to you. When the time comes, Dad will go and give you a gift." These words moved Wen Ruoking very much, and she finally stayed in Wen's family, mainly for him. Although he is cowardly, incompetent, and afraid of his wife. But it is really good for myself. And, ultimately, he is also a victim. I came today just to inform you that my son has already started making preparations. Do you understand what I am telling you?" "Huh, you mean?" "I don't want anyone to interfere with such a wonderful thing. If anyone has any objections, please tell me that this girl's surname is Yan. She only recognizes me as her adoptive father. She will not change her name easily and live in someone else's house as her real daughter." Of. His expression was cold and heartless. Mrs. Wen knew that he was referring to something, and quickly wiped the mud. "Where did you go?" No, you can take care of it. If you need money and manpower, just tell Dad." Wen Ruoking felt refreshed and left happily. Old Mrs. Wen slumped in his chair and sighed repeatedly. "This is my own business." At that time, by the time he knew the truth, it was no longer helpful. "I'm old, just let me rest for a few days." So, I went to the back and notified my old wife of the matter. Old Mrs. Wen was really furious. How dare he? This unworthy man should be kicked out of the house. Old Mrs. Wen nodded. Okay, then get out. I have no children, so I will hand over the family property to Ji Qing's family. Ji Qing has long said that he will investigate the Wen family's property. Whatever you gave Wen Xiangui, he will spit it out. The second brother moved to Zishan. Old Mrs. Wen immediately withered, the past events reappeared, and tears immediately burst out. That year, her precious son died of smallpox, and she almost followed him. That can't be found in the wild. Wen Jiqing is the direct son of a branch of the Wen family, and his relationship is far away. However, if the Wen family's population is reduced to 0, he can count. A family is having trouble. After she got married, she controlled her husband and never allowed him to take concubines. At this time, I didn't care anymore. I made love to several girls, but none of them were pregnant. I want to find an adoptive member in the Wen family, but I really can't find one. Wen Jiqing had several sons, and they were all arrogant. They looked at the door as if the property belonged to them. She really had no choice but to bring Wen Ruoqing out again and say that she had a son. Then use coercion and inducement to let Xianggui's mother and Li go home, and quickly marry that back. She also forcefully changed Xianggui's surname to Wen, making her the legitimate daughter of the family. Just like that, after peeling off a layer of skin, Ji Qing and his family were sent away. She doesn't care whether others see the joke or not, she has been a joke her entire life. I thought about sorting out the family business and leaving as much as possible to Xianggui, and then I closed my eyes and didn't care about anything. Unexpectedly, that was actually found. Then she thought, that's okay, that has suffered a lot outside, and maybe he understands human affairs. If I can have a son with Xianggui's mother, I will come full circle and be a blessing in disguise. So, let's talk to him carefully. In the face of great interests, is there anything that cannot be solved? But no matter how hard and soft she was, the dog didn't pay any attention to her. Do not recognize this family relationship, do not recognize Wen Xianggui. Even though the two of them flattered him in every possible way, he never looked at her. Moreover, this actually found Ji Qing's family again. There is a saying, Mr. Wen, he doesn't want it. But we can't take Wen Xianggui's attitude for granted. Otherwise, the truth must be made known to the world. Now that I think about it, the old lady is still shaking with anger. For the sake of myself, my daughter, and my granddaughter, I cannot fall out with him. But after he came back, it would be difficult to change his business. That bitch is choking his neck everywhere. How shameless! What does everything in the Wen family have to do with him? Although there are thousands of words in my heart, the things that confused the bloodline and shook the foundation, were her doing. How dare you tell the old man? As a result, the tears flowed into my mouth. No matter how bitter they were, they could only be swallowed. Old Mrs. Wen saw her crying but didn't care and walked away. At this point, there is nothing he can do. When Wen Ruoqing was found, he told him the whole truth personally. Confusing bloodlines, taking away sons, and abandoning the legitimate daughter of the Wen family, causing her to suffer and marry someone who is not a human being. It's all done by my old wife. Moreover, after she gave birth to her youngest son, she thought Wen Ruo was getting in the way and killed him. How dare she? His whole life, he had been sincerely in love with his old wife, yet she was so deceived by her. But, what can be done? No matter if Ruo Qing is not his biological son or related by blood, he has suffered from pain for many years and personally taught him the lessons, although, he only taught him to memorize the 3-character sutra. But who else has he taught? He is the only one in the whole world. It's better than adopting one from Jiqing's family, isn't it? If you adopt one, a family will come. Then, I will be driven to Zishan, haha. There was another one that he was most happy about. Ruoking came back, as if he had gotten out of trouble, was appreciated by the emperor, and brought such great glory to the Wen family. Now, the old man stroked his beard, wherever he goes, he is complimented. Even fishing, Boss Jean has to let me go. What else are you trying to figure out? The Wen family, hee, I don't have the ability to pass it on, so I don't care who it belongs to. At that time, I closed my eyes and didn't know anything. If the ancestors are blamed, no matter what the punishment, you can't avoid it, just suffer it. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 260. Chapter 260. Zuzu is in danger. Hu Fei was very reluctant to recognize Yan Zhu as his adoptive father, especially when making such a big noise. Now, he has become the number one person around Yan Zhu. Guyu has become the first two words she speaks when she opens her mouth. This is not easy, and how happy he is. You can't change because of others. No, he started to persuade again. Actually, it doesn't make much sense whether you recognize the so-called foster father or not. After all, you can't bear the surname Wen, and you can't live in the Wen family. What's the difference between that and now? Moreover, after recognizing him, you must treat him as a father and respect him. You have an extra layer of restraint. From now on, I will take it into consideration when speaking and doing things. You and Mr. Wen can no longer be like the past, talking and laughing when we meet, and not interfering with each other when we don't meet. Yan Zhu listened while working. Seeing that she had no reaction, Hu Fei added, besides, what if Lord Wen recognizes you and doesn't want you to work in the store anymore? No way, why doesn't he allow it? Yan Zhu's eyes widened. Hu Fei secretly rejoiced in his heart. Think about it, as Lord Wen, as his daughter, it's okay to make some snacks to honor him. Eat for outsiders, and make money. You also know that Lord Wen is so arrogant and powerful. Why? Maybe you can let your daughter do these mundane things. He looked at Yan Zhu carefully. Normally, he is like a silent shadow, doing a lot but talking little. It's rare to have a great deal like this, especially the last words that touched Yan Zhu's heart. That's not possible. I'm so happy to be living like this. But I can't change just because I became his daughter. That's right, it's a bit hasty to recognize one's relatives before these negotiations are settled. Yan Zhu stopped and thought, actually, I don't care about being an adopted father and adopted daughter. I just feel that Mr. Wen is so smart, so good, and so seriously ill, just follow him. If he wants to admit it, then admit it. Well, but you won't interfere with my work, what do you think? I'm afraid he will interfere in the future. If you don't listen to him, people will say you are unfilial. What can we do? Furthermore, Mr. Wen also said that you must give a dowry when you get married, but if you have short hands, you must obey his words, you are not allowed to ask for those properties at all. He thought to himself, although I haven't decided how to support you yet, the Wen family won't take it seriously. This makes sense. Yan Zhu is indeed a person who doesn't have much idea. How about this? Let's go to the temple and ask the Buddha and Bodhisattvas what they want. If the result is good, then agree. If not, inform Mr. Wen quickly, so that everyone's work will not be in vain. That's a good idea, Yan Zhu nodded in confirmation. Wen Yu was also talking to MRSG about this matter. After hearing this, MRSG said, the old lady of the Wen family knows a thing or two. Mr. Wen has a soft temper and has no ability. I think the concubine is right about this matter. Let's take a look first. His family affairs are complicated. If the old lady comes out and messes around, this adoptive father will be far-fetched and it means nothing to Zuzu. You are talking about. When you heard that her mother-in-law also meant the same thing, and her original enthusiasm was reduced by 1 point. MRSG said, "Tomorrow is your second aunt's birthday. You come back with me. Then you should choose a birthday gift carefully. That's almost it." Yanzu was someone who couldn't control things, so she immediately asked Li Jiang to deliver the news. She would go to the temple to draw lots tomorrow. When you asked Li Jiang if he could go with him one day later. But Li Jiang said that Yanzu was anxious and was ready. Guyu, Sun Ying, Jin Huan, and Yin Huan all followed. "Just go to Fanghua Temple where you went before, and go straight back without turning around." When you thought about it for a while and realized that the problem was not big. After a few more instructions, he asked Li Jiang to go back. This is Yanzhu's first time traveling with a group, and she is quite excited. Arrived at the temple, offered incense, prayed, and drew lots to ask about the good fortune. As a result, the lot was drawn as soon as it came up. It can make her depressed. Hu Fei was standing by, smiling to himself and saying nothing. Sitting in the courtyard of the temple, Yanzu muttered to Guyu, "This is really true. What's there to be afraid of? It's actually a lottery. I've never drawn a lottery before." At this moment, Guyu did not dare to talk nonsense. Given Yanzhu's straightforward nature, most of what he said was relayed to Mr. Wen. With Master Wen's thoughtfulness, he can definitely figure it out. He still has to leave a way out for himself. So, at this time, he can just be a listener. If that doesn't stop it. Yanzu chatted with him for a long time, but when he saw no response, he decided to return to the city immediately. "I'll ask you." The group of people walked back and passed a small forest on the way. In this area, the village is far away. At this moment, there is no one in front or behind. As soon as the car entered, there was a sudden whistle and 4 horses jumped out from the woods. There were 4 people on them. They were dressed in different clothes, but they all had their faces covered. 2 in front and 2 behind. Sun Ying was the most sensitive to these things. He felt bad at the first sight and shouted loudly, "Who dare to block the road and rob someone in broad daylight?" He stepped forward on his horse and drew out his sword. The first 2 people obviously did not take him seriously and did not speak. Hu Fei was also shocked and turned to look at the 2 people behind him. "It feels like they have a familiar aura on them." I subconsciously touched my waist, but found nothing. Yanzu asked in the car, "Guyu, what's wrong?" "It's okay, don't move in the car," Hu Fei said softly, staring at the 2 people behind the car. "Jinhuan, is there anyone in the car?" Jinhuan said, "We only have the daggers we carry with us." "Give me a handful." Jinhuan was a little hesitant. She and Yinhuan each gave them to him. What would they use? This person probably doesn't have the skills of his own. "Hurry," there was an unmistakable tone in his voice. Yanzu was lying on the side of the car and saw it, and was a little scared. "Guyu, ask them, if they want money, we will give them all the money we have and don't let them hurt anyone," Hu Fei said softly. "Don't worry, I'm here. Don't come out in the car. Jinhuan, you two have to protect the girl." When he saw the driver, he was already stunned. He leaned forward and grabbed the whip from his hand, holding the dagger in his left hand and the whip in his right hand. Sun Ying stared at the 2 people in front of him and saw that their breath was restrained and their idea seemed a bit hard. He softened his tone and said, "You guys, if you want money, we will give you the money we have. We can also give you horses and vehicles. This is the official road under the Emperor's feet, where people come and go. How can you?" Before he finished speaking, the other party made a move. 1 person ran towards him, and the other 3, with light steps, arrived at Yanzu's car in the blink of an eye. Hu Fei didn't say anything, he just whipped him when he got up. The person who came at him didn't take him seriously at all. Facing the whip, he cut it off with the knife in his hand. "I thought, just you? If you can't draw me, this knife will cut you in half. But he didn't expect that the tip of the whip was sharp and fast and could turn. By the time he realized it, it was already too late. The tip of the whip reached the corner of his eyes. The man felt like he had been hit hard and yelled, "Ah!" The eye was sealed, and the knife that was struck was also crooked. Hu Fei dodged and then slapped another person. The man was dazed for a moment, then the whip came, and he hurriedly dodged. Hu Fei conveniently snatched the knife from the hand of the injured man. The whole process was seamless and smooth. This time, the masked men were cautious. The third person has already opened the car curtain and reached out to grab the golden ring. Hu Fei was of course anxious, but he couldn't get away, and he knew that if he messed up, he would be doomed. He threw the dagger in his hand at the person who grabbed the golden ring and started fighting with the two people in front of him. At the front, Sun Ying was a little less skilled than that man and was a little injured, but he still pestered him. Jin Huan was caught by the man, but he let her go to avoid the dagger. Yin Huan's dagger arrived, he grabbed it with his backhand and slashed it. Yin Huan snorted, obviously hurt. This person's movements are also very coherent, and he needs to use the knife on the golden ring. Yan Zhu screamed inside and hurriedly picked up the sundries around him and threw them at him. He didn't pay attention and was hit on the head, but he didn't do anything to Yan Zhu. Yin Huan's arm was injured and he was kicking her, but he didn't care. He grabbed the two girls and threw them to the ground. He jumped in front of the car, kicked the driver out of the car, and then planned to drive away. Yan Zhu is still screaming inside. Hu Fei had already chopped down one opponent, but the other one was still pestering him. Seeing that the car was about to leave, he suddenly panicked, he couldn't even scream even if he wanted to. But at this moment, a voice came out of the air, and a sleeve arrow hit the man's back. He felt pain and turned his head to look. I don't know when, several people appeared around. He didn't say anything when he came, he just hit him when he came up. One of them quickly came to Hu Fei and handed a sword into his hand. Hu Fei took it expressionlessly. With the familiar push and pull, the sword was unsheathed. His whole demeanor changed drastically, his eyes became sharp, he flew forward and stabbed his opponent. That action was so beautiful. It was very effective. One porcupine hit the person and gave him a deep chill. Someone assisted Sun Ying to deal with his opponent. There was only one left. Seeing that the situation was not good, he turned around, mounted his horse and ran away. Hu Fei said in a deep voice, "Catch him alive." Yes, two people chased after him on horseback. Hu Fei hurried to the car and asked, "Zhu, how are you?" He quickly looked up and down. Yan Zhu shouted, "Guyu," and started to cry. "It's okay, it's okay. Stop crying, let's go back to the city quickly." Hu Fei's eyes were full of heartache. Sun Ying," Hu Fei shouted. Sun Ying was also stunned, everything happened too fast. From the moment the masked man appeared to the end of the fight, it was all a matter of one mistake. I'm fine, there was blood on his body, and he should have been injured a little, but not seriously. The silly boy driving the cart was paralyzed on the ground and couldn't get up. Someone picked him up and put him aside to help him drive. Jin Huan and the other two also got into the car with pale faces and comforted Yan Zhu. Hu Fei followed the car on horseback and asked the person next to him with a solemn face, "When were they here?" "No one followed you on the way here. They should have been waiting here for a long time. It seems that they are not robbing money, and they don't seem to be here for you." Although they followed Hu Fei, they were just afraid of being discovered by him. He dared to get close, so he fought for a while before arriving. Although Hu Fei still had doubts, he felt a little more relaxed. He was really afraid that he would bring trouble to her. "Sir," the person behind him stopped talking. "We'll talk about it later." Hu Fei didn't want to say it here. "Then you," the other party looked begging. "Don't worry. I won't leave again." He followed the car with a dozen horses and asked softly, "Miss Zuzu, are you okay?" At this moment, Yanzu was frightened after realizing it and trembled into a ball. "Is someone dead? They are thieves and have been dealt with. Don't be afraid. When we go back, we will find Zhang Zhongqing and ask him to bring people to find out what happened. We just need to be fine. Don't be afraid, it's fine." The gentle voice. Several of his subordinates looked at each other and couldn't help but sigh. Their master has made another mistake. Mr. Shi is here, how worried he must be. End of this chapter.